This is an annotated bibliography. These sources below will help me write a condensed argument on the causes of gun violence in the United States because they talk about a lot of major factors that lead to gun violence. These sources I have chosen are credible in my argument on causes of gun violence because they use statistics, expert opinions, scientific studies, and historical documents. The article is discussing the March for Our Lives movement, which was organized by students at Majority Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida, where a former student shot and killed 17 people. The shooting, one of the worst in U.S. history, renewed debate about gun laws and rights of gun owners. The article compares information about young adults on their position on gun violence issue since Florida and Virginia attacked. Over time, people's response to gun control have fluctuated. Other information the site records gun-related incidents between the United States and other countries and the top countries with gun owners. This relates to my argument because it talks about most recent mass shooting, gives statistics about gun violence over time, which will be useful to my argument. It's a credible source because the article thoroughly explains its opinions, uses evidence and statistics to support its claim. This article on Vox.com discusses the most recent mass shooting at Majority Stoneman Douglas High School. The author of the article, who is German Lopez, states that he is tired of seeing the same events happening over and over again, disagrees with people saying that there are no laws that could have been able to prevent the mass shootings. The author then goes on to blame Washington because the federal government did nothing for the 6 7-year-olds killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School, Newtown, Connecticut, where gunmen killed 26 children, 6 adults, and himself in 2012. The other incidents that have followed, the article relates to my position on gun control because it lists its own reasons why these mass shootings keep on happening, which is what I'm writing about. This is a credible source because the author thoroughly explains his ideas and uses evidence and statistics to support his claim. The author also cites his information. This article takes a look at gun violence at the most recent mass shooting, the Majority Stoneman Douglas High School. The author of the article is James Gilligan. The reasons for gun violence are overall murder rate, mental health, elected politicians. This article is useful to my essay because it goes over some of the causes I will be discussing. The author explains his reasons. An example for the overall murder rate being a root cause is that the author states that the majority of murder victims are killed as a result of single homicides, and if people want to end mass shooting, they have to look at the overall murder rate. Another example is the author states that mental health factors are an issue, and some mentally ill people need to be looked at. The article gives deeper into gun violence and mental illness. The article discusses the relationship between gun violence and mental health at the most recent mass shooting. Julie Beck is the author of the article. She believes that mental illness is not the main cause. She states that the majority of people with mental illness are not violent, but there's only a small percentage of people that are violent due to schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or depression. The article provides studies showing that only a small percentage of people with mental illness commit an act of violence. The author blames the media for generalizing that every mass shooter is mentally ill. That makes people believe that mentally ill people become violent. This article is useful to my claims because it talks about connection between gun violence and mental illness. While not everyone who is mentally ill become violent people, there are some that will. The article is credible because it provides facts, expert opinions, scientific studies on mental illness. Gun Control Debate is a book detailing different debates on the area of gun control. The book consists of over 200 pages of documents going back 200 years. The early documents were written in the 1800s, and their main debate is to explain it is the right of citizens to bear arms. William Raw's article says that there is no clause to disarm citizens of guns. Justice Joseph's story explains the right of citizens to keep and bear arms has been considered. Later documents introduced the NRA, National Rifle Association. The main debate is around the Second Amendment. This book is helpful to me because I can look at different arguments before searching causes of gun violence. This book is credible because it uses historical federal documents throughout history. The author examines the impact of entertainment violence on viewers, addresses the dilemma between violent programming and government control. This looks at ways to guard against the effects of media violence. The author explains her arguments on violence in the media and provides evidence on desensitization, fear, and addiction that concerns psychologists when it comes to violence in the media. The source is helpful in my argument on causes of gun violence in the United States, but it talks about desensitization, violence in the media. is one of my topics in the argument. The author examines the impact of race, poverty in the United States, and how it affects Americans that are currently living on the poverty line. The book also goes over poor schools, poor neighborhoods, few job opportunities that exist in those areas. The author explains the hardships that Americans go through and analyzes the structural environmental causes of discrimination and their effects on Americans. This source has helped in my argument on the causes of gun violence in the United States because it addresses poverty, poor neighborhoods, and few job opportunities and lack of education in the United States. These areas fall under the causes of gun violence in the argument essay. The article discussed the data released by the Bureau of Justice Statistics regarding the implementation of the violence intervention programs in the United States. The article is aiming to show violence intervention programs can reduce violence among young people. An example of gun violence mentioned in the article is the shooting at Reynolds High School in Troutdale, Oregon, where a shooter shot two people himself. This is helpful for my argument on the causes of gun violence because the article suggests ways to gun violence by implementing violence and intervention programs. The article also says the gun violence is caused by violence communities, which relates to my topic of poor neighborhoods being a cause. The article focuses on restructuring of current proposed gun laws. The article also focuses on finding ways that work to reduce gun violence, like strengthening background checks. The article suggests new changes for the NICS. It mentions U.S. Congress passed the NIAA, which provided certain financial incentives and penalties to states based on their submission numbers for background checks. It also mentioned the need to reduce gun violence committed by individuals with mental illness. This is helpful for my argument on causes of gun violence because the article's topic is related to one of my causes of gun violence, which is background checks. The article is credible because it gives facts and statistics. This article was written following the mass shooting of Sutherland Springs Church in Texas. The FBI and NRA are organizations taking the blame for most recent mass shootings. The article discusses missing information of background checks like records of criminal convictions, mental illness, diagnosis, other flags that would keep guns out of potentially dangerous people. Studies in the article show that there are gaps in the background check system, and even the NRA said the background check system is inadequate. The author of the article pulls out quotes to show how flawed the system is. A quote that she pulls out from James Comey. This case rips all of our hearts out. Comey said this after the Charlestown church shooting. This article is helpful in my argument because gun violence, because it's about flawed background check system, which is one of my topics. The article is credible because it shows studies, quotes, and facts. This is the Annotated